Hello everyone. This video is brought to you by Newton's Group of Institutions. I am Arvind Degireddy from the Department of CSC. In this video, I'll be talking about the introduction to computers. If you like my videos, please subscribe to my channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates. Now in this video, we will discuss about the basic components of computer hardware, computer software, units of measurements, speed measurements, and classification of computers. Now let us see what is a computer. A computer is an electronic device operating under the control of instructions, stored in its own memory that can accept data as input and process this data according to the specified rules, and then produce the information as an output and store this information for the future use. So as we know that computers are electronic devices which are being developed to assist the users in performing difficult calculations as well as other activities. So the development of powerful computing devices led to the invention of several other devices. Of course, it however took many years to develop the advanced computer. In the early days, people carried out certain mathematical calculations such as adding or counting by using their fingers or pebbles along the line drawn in the sand. So this method of adding developed a counting device called as abacus. So this device helped the users to carry out their respective calculations by using a system consisting of sliding beds that are arranged on a rack. The advantage of this counting device is that it is very easy for user to perform calculations. So this device was used by people across the world for many years and still is being used by many people in many countries. So as the time and technology evolved, humans invented many other different efficient computing devices like Napier bones and the slide rule. So after many centuries, another advanced computing device was being developed by a French mathematician, Blaise Pascal. He was the first mathematical scientist who invented the functional automatic calculator called as Pascaline. So this device is made up of a brass rectangular box that used 8 dials which are movable in order to add some ranging from 0 to 8-digit long numbers. So the real era of computer that are used today were being invented by an English professor, Charles Babbage, who is known as the father of the computer. So in 1982, he invented a machine called a difference engine to perform differential equations. So this machine worked with the help of a steam of very large as a locomotive unit. Now coming to the functionalities of the computer, any digital computer carries out 5 functions in gross terms. That is, they take data as input and store this data or instructions in the memory and use them when required, and then process the data and convert them into useful information, and finally they generate the output. And the basic function of the computer is they control all the above mentioned 4 steps. Now coming to the computer components. So here the computer system consists of 3 essential components: input-output units, central processing unit, and a memory unit. So any kind of computer consists of hardware and software. Now Now let us see what is an hardware. Computer hardware is the collection of physical elements that constitute a computer system. This computer hardware refers to the physical parts or components of a computer such as a monitor, mouse, keyboard, computer data storage, hard drive disk HDD, and system units like graphics cards, sound cards, memory, motherboard and chips, etc. So here all of which are physical objects that can be touched. Now coming to the input devices, input device is any peripheral that is a piece of computer hardware equipment to provide data and control signals to an information processing system such as a computer or other information appliance. So here the input device translates data from to the form that humans understand or to the one that the computer can work with. So the most common input devices are keyboard and mouse. Here in this picture you can see some of the manual input devices like keyboards, numeric keypads, pointing devices like mouse, remote controls, joystick, touch screen, scanners, graphics tablets, microphones, digital cameras, web cameras and light pens. So here in this particular table I have mentioned different input devices. So here a CPU is the brain of a computer. It is responsible for all functions and processes regarding computing power. So the CPU is the most important element of a computer system. Here the CPU is comprised of three main parts. One is arithmetic logical unit, control unit and registers. So here the arithmetic logical unit executes all arithmetic and logical operations, arithmetic calculations like as addition, subtraction, multiplication and divisions, logical operations like comparing numbers, letters or special characters. Coming to the control unit, this unit is responsible for controlling the operational sequence. So it takes the input from the primary storage unit, interprets it and checks whether the program execution is done correctly or not. And it is also responsible for controlling the input-output devices and manages the entire functionalities of other system components. Whereas coming to the registers, registers are considered to be a special purpose high-speed temporary memory components that are capable of storing different types of information like data, instructions, addresses, etc. So there are many types of registers and the number of registers in a computer depend on the architecture of the computer. So here some of the different types of registers we can come across are program counter register, that is which is also called as an PC register. This register is responsible for storing information about the next instruction that needs to be executed. And another important register is instruction register, IR. This register stores those instructions that are required to decode by control unit. And one more register, that is memory address register, MAR. This register stores the information about the address belonging to the next location stored in the memory and that needs to be accessed. And we have memory buffer register, MBR, and this register is responsible for storing the data transferred by the CPU or that is being transferred to the CPU. And one more most important register is accumulator. AC. So this register is considered as an general purpose registers which is responsible for storing temporary results as well as those results generated by arithmetic logical units. And data register DR. This register is responsible for storing the information associated with the operands and other data. Coming to the memory unit, we have primary memory and secondary memory. So here, the two main primary memory units are random access memory and read-only memory. So random access memory means RAM. So it is a memory schema within the computer system that is responsible for storing data on the temporary basis so that it can be promptly accessed by the processor as and when needed. So the nature of this RAM is volatile nature, which means that the data will be erased once supply to the storage device is turned off. So RAM stores data randomly and the processor accesses this data randomly from the RAM storage. So RAM is considered as random access because you can access any memory cell directly if you know the row and column that intersect at that cell. Coming to the second kind of primary memory, that is main memory, ROM, read-only memory. Here, ROM is a permanent form of storage. That is, it is a non-volatile nature. Here, ROM stays active regardless of whether the power supply is turned on or off. So, RAM devices do not allow data stored on them to be modified. Whereas coming to the secondary memory, that is the devices that store data and programs permanently. So it's retained after the power is turned off. Here we have so many secondary storage devices. Now let us see some of the main storage, secondary storage devices. One is hard drive, HD. So a hard disk is a part of a unit often called as an disk drive or hard drive or hard disk drive. So that stores and provides relatively quick access to large amount of data on electromagnetically charged surface or set of surfaces. And the second kind of secondary storage device we often see is an optical disk. So an optical disk drive, ODD, is a disk drive that uses laser light as part of the process of reading or writing data to or from the optical disks. So here the optical drive is the generic name. These drives are usually described as CD, DVD or Blu-ray, followed by drive or writer, etc. So there are three main types of optical media, that is CD, DVD and Blu-ray discs. Here the CDs can store up to 700 megabytes of data and DVDs can store up to 8.4 GB of data, and Blu-ray discs, which are the newest type of optical media, which can store up to 50 GB of data. So here this storage capacity is a clear advantage over the floppy disk storage media or magnetic media, which has only a capacity of 1.44 MB. And the third kind of secondary memory device is flash disk. So here a storage module made up of flash memory chips. A flash disk have no mechanical platters or access arms, but the term disk is used because the data are accessed as if they were on a hard drive. So this disk storage structure is emulated. Now Let us see the comparison between the main memory RAM, that is the primary memory, and the secondary memory hard disk. So here RAM is a memory unit and hard disk is a storage device. So here in the RAM, which is a smaller amount of memory, which is typically from 500 MB to 6 GB, whereas the hard disk is much large amount of storage device, typically from 80 GB to 1000 GB. Here the RAM is a temporary storage of files and programs because its nature is volatile nature, and hard disks are permanent storage of files and programs because they are non-volatile nature. So here a RAM is little like your real desktop, has only your current work on it, which could be ruined by a spill of Coke or coffee. Whereas coming to hard disk, a hard disk is like a file cabinet which has long-term storage of work, which is safe from spills. So here in the RAM, the contents disappear when you turn off the power to the computer and when the computer crashes. Whereas in the hard disk, content remain when you turn off the power to the computer. That is, they don't disappear unless you purposely delete them and when the computer crashes. And here the RAM consists of chips, that is microprocessor, whereas the hard disk consists of hard disks, which we call as platters. So in RAM, when you want to use a program, a temporary copy is put into the RAM and that is the copy you use. So here we call RAM as the main memory or the primary memory because whatever you are going to execute in the computer, that need to be available in the RAM. Whereas coming to the hard disk, they hold the original copy of the programs permanently. Now coming to the output device, an output device is any piece of computer hardware equipment used to communicate the results of the data processing carried out by an information processing system such as a computer, which converts the electronically generated information into human readable form. Here, let us see some of the examples of output devices like CRT monitors, TFT monitors, laser printers, inkjet printers, dot matrix printers, speakers, plotters, multimedia projectors. And I also have shown these things in the tabular form. Now, coming to the software, a software is a generic term for organized collection of computer data and instructions, often broken into two major categories. One is system software that provide the basic non-task specific functions of the computer, and application software which is used by users to accomplish the specific task. Coming to system software, the system software is responsible for controlling, integrated and managing the individual hardware components of a computer system so that other softwares and the users of the system see it as an functional unit without having to be concerned with the low-level details such as transferring data from the memory to disk or rendering text onto a display. So generally, system software consists of operating system and some fundamental units such as disk formatters, file managers, display managers, text editors, user authentication and management tools and networking and device control softwares. So here system software or system packages are set of one or more programs that are basically designed to control the operation of the computer system. So they are general programs written to assist the users in the use of computer system by performing tasks such as controlling all of the operations, moving data into and out of the computer, and all other steps in executing the application program. So in general, the system packages support so many things. They support running of the other softwares. They support in communicating with peripheral devices such as printers, card readers, disks, tapes, devices, etc. Or to develop other types of softwares. And they also help in monitoring the use of various hardware resources such as memory, peripherals, CPU, etc. So here, system softwares makes the operation of the computer system more effective and efficient. So one such system software is an operating system. So here, an operating system is a master control program that runs the computer and acts as a scheduler. So it controls the flow of signals from the CPU to various parts of the computer. So here, the operating system is the first program that is being loaded into the computer memory after the computer is being switched on. So here, the popular operating systems that include MS-DOS, OS/2, Windows, Linux, Unix, so on. So here, the operating system is an important component of a computer system because it sets the standard for the application programs to run on it. And here, all the programs must be written to talk to the operating system. And the operating system performs so many tasks like job management, task management, data management, security, and bootstraps. Whereas coming to the application software is used to accomplish specific tasks other than just running a computer system. So here, application software may consist of a single program such as an image viewer, a small collection of programs often called as software packages that work closely together to accomplish a particular task, such as a spreadsheet or text processing system. Or it may contain a large collection often called as an software suite of related but independent programs and packages that have a common user interface or shared data formats such as Microsoft Office, which consists of closely integrated word processor, spreadsheets, database, etc. Or a software system such as database management system, which is a collection of fundamental programs that may provide some services to variety of other independent applications. So here, the application software or an application packages are set of one of more programs designed to carry out operations for a specified application. For example, every month a payroll package produces the pay slips of the workers of a company. Similarly, an inventory package may produce the list of different parts of equipments available in the organization. So here, traditionally, application packages are limited to the general purpose functioning of the production schedule, general ledgers, and general accounting packages. Since there is a great demand for general purpose softwares, there is every increasing development of this software. So here, the special purpose packages have been developed for such areas as banking, hospital administration, insurance, desktop publishing, manufacturing, etc. Now here we need to see the difference between the system and application software packages. Here the system packages offers several advantages and convenience to application programmers and the computer users. Every good system software allows application packages to be run on a computer with less effort. Without system software, application packages cannot be run on a computer system. So this may, however, produce or a production of a system software is a complex task that requires extensive knowledge and considerable specialization training in computer science. Whereas system programmers who prepare a system software are highly trained computer specialists and important members of the computer architecture team. Because of its technical complexity, system software is rarely developed in-house. That is, system software is normally developed and distributed by the computer manufacturer. So the system software is an indispensable part of the total computer system. Its function is to compensate for the difference that exists between the user needs and the capabilities of the hardware. Now let us see the units of measurements. That is the storage measurements. So the basic unit used in computer data storage is called as an bit, binary digit. Computer uses these little bits, which are composed of ones and zeros, to do things and take to the other computer. So all your files or instances are kept in the computer as binary files and translated into words and pictures by the software, which are also ones and zeros. So this two number system is called as an binary number system since it has only two numbers in it. The decimal number system is, in contrast, has 10 digits 0 through 9. Now here, the different computer storage units what we use is bit, kilobyte, megabyte, gigabyte and terabyte. So bit means either 0 or 1. Kilobyte represented as KB, which are 1024 bytes. Megabyte means 1024 kilobytes. And gigabyte, GB means 1024 megabytes. And terabytes means 1024 gigabytes. Here, kilo means 1024. So kilo means 1024. So megabyte means 1024 kilobytes. So 1024, the value of 1024 is 2 to the power of 10. So megabyte is 2 to the power of 20 bytes. Gigabyte means 2 to the power of 30 bytes. Terabyte means 2 to the power of 40 bytes. Here, one bit answers to an yes or no question. And one byte is a number from 0 to 255. 90 bytes are enough to store a typical line of text from a book. Or 4 KB generally is about one page of text. And 120 KB, the text of a typical pocket book. And 3 MB, a 3-minute song, or 128K bitrate, and 650 to 900 MB and CD-ROM, and 1 GB is nothing but 114 minutes of uncompressed CD quality audio at 1.4 megabits, and 8 to 16 GB is a size of normal flash drive. Now, let us see the speed measurements. So the speed of central processing unit CPU is measured by HZ. which represents a CPU cycle. So the speed of CPU is known as the computer speed. 1 hertz is called 1 cycle per second, and 1 megahertz means 1 million cycles per second or 1000 hertz, and 1 gigahertz is equal to 1 billion cycles per second or 1000 megahertz. Now let us see the different terms what we are going to see in the measurements. One is bandwidth. Bandwidth means computing the amount of information that can be sent each second over a network connection. Bit. Bit is nothing but computing the most basic unit of information that can be stored in a computer. And block. A block is computing an amount of information considered as 1 unit used when writing computer programs. Byte. A byte is a basic unit for storing computer information used for measuring the size of the document, and a byte is usually made of 8 bits. The written abbreviation is B. And in between we will have something called as a nibble. Nibble is nothing but it is 4 bits. 4 bits of information is called as a nibble. And we can come across a word capacity. Say capacity is nothing but computing the amount of information that can be stored on a computer or on a CD or a floppy disk. Clock speed. Clock speed is the speed at which the computer works. CPS, abbreviation of characters per second, is a measure of how the fast information moves from one computer or file to another. DPI, dots per inch, a measurement of the ability of a computer screen or a printer to produce a clear image. Exabyte, a unit for measuring the capacity of a computer system, equivalent to 1018 bytes. The written abbreviation is EB. Gigabyte is a unit for measuring the computer information, equal to 1024 megabytes. The written abbreviation is GB. Gigahertz. So gigahertz is an abbreviation for GHz, a unit for measuring the sound waves, radio waves and computer speed. Now gigabyte. Gigabyte is a unit for measuring the computer information, and gigahertz is a unit for measuring the sound waves, radio waves and computer speed. kbps, kilobytes per second, is a unit for measuring the speed of a modem. Kilobyte is a unit for measuring the computer information containing 1024 bits. Kilobyte is a unit for measuring computer information containing 1024 bytes. The written abbreviation is KB. MB, abbreviation of megabyte, is a unit for measuring the size of the computer memory, equal to just over 1 million bytes. Mbps, megabits per second, is a unit for measuring the speed of the modem. Megabit, a million bits, which is equal to the smallest unit of information that can be used by a computer. And megahertz is a unit most often used for measuring the speed of a computer processor or a memory, equal to 1 million hertz. Megapixel is a unit for measuring the speed at which the images can be sent from one computer to another, or the amount of details you can see on a computer screen, equal to just over 1 million pixels. MIPS, million instructions per second, a unit for measuring the computer speed. Petabyte is a unit for measuring the capacity of a computer system, which is equivalent to 1015 bytes, and the written abbreviation is PB. Pixel, which is the smallest unit of an image, on a computer screen. Terabyte is a unit for measuring the capacity of a computer system, which is equivalent to 1012 bytes, and the written abbreviation is 1 TB. Yottabyte, a unit for measuring the capacity of a computer system, equivalent to 1024 bytes. The written abbreviation is YB. Zettabyte, a unit for measuring the capacity of a computer system, which is equivalent to 1021 bytes, and the written abbreviation is 1ZB. Now, let us see the computer classification. The computers can be generally classified by size and power as follows through. There is a considerable overlap. Personal computers, which are a small single user computer based on a microcomputer. In addition to the microprocessor, a personal computer has a keyboard for entering data, a monitor for displaying information, and a storage device for saving the data. A workstation is a powerful single user computer. A workstation is like a personal computer, but it has a more powerful microprocessor and a high quality monitor. Coming to a mini computer, a multi-user computer capable of supporting from 10 to hundreds of users simultaneously. Whereas a mainframe computer is a powerful multi-user computer capable of supporting many hundreds or thousands of users simultaneously. And a supercomputer is an extremely fast computer that can perform hundreds of millions of instructions per second. Here, we need to understand the laptops and smartphone computers. So a laptop is a battery or AC powered personal computer that can be easily carried and used in variety of locations. So here many laptops are designed to have all of the functionalities that what we have in a desktop computer, which means that they can generally run on the same software and open the same types of files. Here, however, some laptops such as netbooks sacrifice some functionalities in order to be even more portable. So let us see what is a netbook. A netbook is a type of laptop that is designed to be even more portable, and netbooks are often cheaper than laptops or desktops. So they are generally less powerful than other type of computers, but they provide enough power for emails and internet access, which is where the name netbook has come from. And coming to the mobile device, a mobile device is basically any handheld computer. It is designed to be extremely portable, often fitting in the palm of your hand or in your pocket. Whereas coming to the tablet computer, they are just like laptop. Tablet computers are designed to be portable. However, they provide a very different computing experience. So the most obvious difference is that the tablet computers don't have a keyboard or a touchpad. So instead, the entire screen is touch sensitive, and which allows you to type on a virtual keyboard and uses your finger as an mouse pointer. And not last but the least, smartphone. A smartphone is a powerful mobile phone that is designed to run a variety of applications in addition to the phone services. So they are basically small tablet computers and they can be used for web browsing, watching videos, reading ebooks, playing games, and much more. Thank you, one and all.